Hello. Oh, my hair looks a little bit, look, dear me. What can I do with that? Just, put it to one side like that. Um, right. I want to talk about words. I am thinking of writing a course, about Rip Bulkeley's, collection of poetry, um, Rebel Talk. And I want to practice my video making skills. I'm going to probably appear just as a small head, as an icon on some of the slides from his book that I wish to share with you, a discussion of which without hopefully breaking any copyright issues. So Rip Bulkeley, well, I won't go on to talk about that now. It's tempting. I want to talk about a long time ago when I was a young girl. One of the talks around to do with poetry was called Poetry Appreciation. Now, lately, people have not been appreciating poetry, and have just almost dismissed it. But the appreciation factor, in some ways, was seen as cultivatable. The more you learn to appreciate poetry, the more you were progressing. Now, that sort of fits into what I want to talk about particularly today, because I want to talk about particularly three phrases. Now, when I was again in school at Queen Margaret's, actually, first learning French for O level, we had a very good French teacher who was very fluent in French and had conversations over to France on her telephone at home a lot. And she particularly encouraged us to learn phrases, French phrases. I can't remember many of them now. It was a long time ago. I did do French A level, but I lost my confidence somewhat. I mean, I want to talk about the way. We'll start with, you will all remember that film, that wonderful film where there's chitty chitty bang bang and a great big car, and all the children are given whistles, sweet whistles. And I think there may even be a song called Toot Sweet. Now, Toot Sweet, in the dictionary and the translations we were given, meant straight away. It may have been at that time in France that it did mean straight away. Or does it mean straight away? Might it mean and all following, or all that might follow? Might it be a word, a phrase to imply a flirtation, or may it be that some French people were encouraged to think ahead to consequence flows of other kinds, not necessarily sexual, thank goodness. Now, that does fit into the talk about green issues, because in a way, a lot of people were Extinction Rebellion and so on were made to seem as rebels, I'm talking about Rip Bulkeley's book again. I must stop talking about that for now because I'm planning a course on it. So I will go back to Toot Sweet and say words are ameliorative and healing. Often they can also be very hurtful. But could it have been when French was the diplomatic language? Some people had dictionaries provided to them in English, which gave the wrong translation. So people saying toot sweet might have thought they were meaning straight away, and it might have meant something completely different in maybe only a region of France. And this is important because lately on YouTube and Google, YouTube is run by Google. I've been made aware that they're trying to specify when they're asking for what language your videos are made in, they now specify American. As though the American language is separate from English. Now, it may need to be, there may be so much pressure from South America that the way their language may need to develop, it may need to incorporate more Spanish elements into the American language to some extent, or they may be wanting to break free from the UK and wanting to form their own separate club more. I mean, there's always been pronunciation issues and so on. But the second phrase I wanted to talk about actually was, are you in a rush? I was in the petrol station grocery shop yesterday, and there was a man who went round to the counter feed the wrong way, who thought he was going to be served first, but I was actually in the queue because the queue goes round a corner. And I said to him, are you in a rush? Conceding to him if he was. And he said, no, it's all right, and went behind me. But thinking about that afterwards, I thought, in a rush? Now, because partly I'd been prompted by the American thing, the fact that there might, or people might want there to be an American language, I thought, well, in a rush means to me with haste, or needing, if you're needing to make haste completely. But for American people with gold rushes and things, or for African people with bulrushes and things, or Christian people with bulrush ideas or whatever, well, not Christian, but biblical Bible readers or whatever, necessarily, would in a rush mean something different? Would people think of gold rushes? Would they think of acting as though you're in a gold rush when maybe there is no signs of a gold rush? Would it mean haste to such an extent, and do those three ideas go together? And is the bulrush idea that Moses was found in the basket a different idea or part of the same idea? The third phrase I want to talk about is I'm good, which came over from New Zealand and which most of the young people now say. And I, in my own mind, translate as I'm okay, thank you. Now, does it mean I'm okay, thank you? Or is there such an element of defensiveness about it that there's a suggestion that medical people might, I mean, I remember a long time ago when I was needing contraceptive advice, a lot of the people in York and working in the York contraceptive station which it did turn out to be because the men mostly did not go there, with their wives or their girlfriends or whatever. So it wasn't necessarily a family planning clinic at all. It was an emergency contraception place or a farming place where people were put on the pill and hired out with all their hormones completely changed. So they may seem more like Stepford wives, but willing to let their husbands play with them or whatever, and so on. Um, yes, there were a lot of Roman Catholics working there. They actually were providing often the morning after pill, but one or two women who worked there were actually by faith Roman Catholics. And would that have changed their and would it have filtered through and would they have discriminated? So I'm good, maybe a necessary defense